Welcome to the Marketing Drip, where we drip tips to scale your business digitally. Abby here, and today's episode is part of our Fortune Management series. We're talking with coaches all over the United States to give guidance for all the dentists that are really wanting to go that next level. I talked with Julia Dent. She's an executive coach with Hygiene Mastery and Fortune Management. Julia received her bachelor's degree in science in dental hygiene and has a master's in public health from the University of Southern California. She's been in multiple private practices working not only as a hygienist, but also as a treatment, financial, and hygiene coordinator. She's helped manage multiple private practices and hired on board new employees, and she's worked with a nonprofit where she ran multiple clinics and daily operations. Julia is passionate about patient care, specifically the patient care that a hygienist can deliver, and she really believes that a hygienist is the heart of the practice, and they can make all the difference when it comes to helping a patient achieve their oral health goals. I'm really excited for you guys to hear today's episode, so let's begin. Today's drip, provided by Digital Resource, a full-service digital marketing agency that is your resource for everything digital. Hey, Julia, thank you so much for joining and dripping some knowledge on us today. I am so excited to have you and your energy on this episode.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
Yeah, of course. Well, I don't want to waste any time. I know you're a busy girl, so I'm just going to get right to it. As far as you've been in dentistry for a while now, and you have a lot of hygiene background as well, being a hygienist yourself. So based on your experience, like what is often overlooked when it comes to dental practices? What have you seen happen in the dental practices that you're like, wow, why is this so common?
You know, I would actually say social media as one of my top areas that I feel like gets overlooked.
Ooh!
I think that a lot of team members are great at like running their own social media or great at stalking other people's social media. And
what do you mean?
And even though there's like that one team member that everybody knows is just like amazing at social media, like they know how to navigate it, they know how to gain followers, they know what content to put out. No one is running that for the office. And it just kind of baffles me because we all know that this is not going away. We're all on it. We're connected to it on our phones. We're connected to it on our browsers. And so this is an area that I see gets overlooked for their marketing, and it gets overlooked in just being like, I guess just being like, that's actually a good way to kind of stop that sentence.
Yeah.
But patients want to know who they're going to. And so that's why we all love social media. It feels like we know that person, whether that's truly who they are or not. We feel like we know them. And so patients feel that same way. Like they want to know your team. They want to know your doctor. They want to know when they walk in what Susie's been up to. Like, was it her anniversary or was it her birthday? Like they want to know that. And so I think that that's an area that gets overlooked a lot. The other area that I would say gets overlooked, and I will beat this dead horse all day long, are morning huddles, which I am, all my teams know. I'm constantly like, how's the huddle? How's the huddle? How's the huddle? And then team meetings.
Yes.
If we're not taking time to work on our business, it's working us. And that's where I see a lot of teams feel fatigued. A lot of doctors feel frustrated. These are two areas that elevate our communication, which in turn elevates the care that our patients get. So I gave you three instead of just one.
Yes. Okay, first off, the fact that you said social media, usually nobody says anything to do with marketing, and I love it. Yes, plug, let's go. That's so amazing. And it's true. It is often overlooked, I do think it's because too, it's hard to track ROI unless like you're running an ad.
Yeah.
It's like, so you don't see the value where you're like, well, we're not getting more business from it. It's typically what we hear. Right. And absolutely, it's a hard thing to track unless people say, I found you through social media. Well, typically they find you through a referral or Google, but 70% of people will actually go to your social pages to make the decision to move forward with you. So they might not have found you that way, but that's to your very point. They want to know what they're walking into. They want to know who these people are. It is a community feel when you're going to a dental practice. And making sure that you are displaying that and you're celebrating and you're getting them excited about this is what you're about to walk into and this is who to look forward to. This is what our office looks like and this is our expertise. And yeah, Debbie just had her birthday. Or did you know that one of our hygienists or assistants or our doctor graduated from this university, and oh, I went there
Mm-hmm.
too. And just making those connections even before the relationship starts helps fast track it. And it can be so fun if people have that, but I know it's more work, right? I totally get that, and being creative. But to your point, it's easy for personal. Why is it so hard for professional?
Yes.
Like it's the same aspect, but it can be tricky, but very, very important.
Yeah.
And the fact that you hit on morning huddles, do you have any advice of like how to structure, like what to talk about in those huddles? Because I feel like people don't like meetings because they're like, I want to be productive and I want to make sure it is worth everybody's time, because to your point, they are so effective when done right. Do you have like tips or anything on like the best things to go over in a morning huddle?
Absolutely. So we like to, when we think of a morning huddle, like your morning huddle should never feel like you're just reporting the news. Like your morning huddle is not the time to read the schedule and say, Mrs. Smith is coming at 8 a.m. for a crown. Well, duh, we can all read the schedule. No,
I can see that.
And that feels very unproductive. Like, yes, we all know Mrs. Smith is coming in for a crown at 8 a.m. What we want to know is Mrs. Smith tends to be here 10 minutes early, doesn't sit down in the waiting room, and taps her foot while she looks at her watch. So when Mrs. Smith walks in, so-and-so assistant, immediately please go seat her. Those are the type of things that you're going to talk about in your huddle. The other key piece is that one person should not run a huddle. If doctor is standing up there talking about everything that's going on, people are checking out. A huddle is meant for everybody to come prepared on how to run their day the best way possible. So I'm a hygienist. I want my hygienist coming prepared with, who needs a pre-med, who is coming from hygiene side to doctor side, what patient or what family members don't have appointments. I'll make sure that I check out with Serie up front so that she can get them scheduled. Like those are the things you want to know, because they're going to make your day more efficient and they're going to make the practice overall more profitable. So definitely advocating for each department to bring information to that huddle. And then also making sure that any like VIP, PIA patients are highlighted and taken care of the way they want to be taken care of. Because that's really, we're in the business of customer service. So if your patients are telling you what they want, whether that's through behavior, through actual verbal communication, or things that you have just learned throughout the years, meet them where they're at. I guarantee they won't be PIA patients anymore if you just hone in on those small things because you're meeting their expectations.
Exactly. And you don't know their expectations. If they're telling you, oh my, that is a dream. Like when they don't see it as bad criticism or anything like that. Like they are telling you what they want. It doesn't get much easier than that. Do it, or figure out a way to like make it I hear this a lot when it comes to internal practice marketing, when we're sending out emails and stuff, and a patient will say, stop sending me all these emails, turn it all off. And it's like, did you ask what they want to be educated about? Like, did you further that question? Don't just turn it off and say, yep, you got it. But like, okay, if I turn this off, you do realize that means your appointment reminders are off, or when you're due for an appointment, or when you do treatment and we follow up with post-op instructions, that's not going to be there anymore. Are you sure you want all this off, or do you just want some things off? Oh, I want some things off. What do you want turned off? Do you want to know when we have updates in the practice? No. Perfect. We'll uncheck that. Like, it's understanding what they're actually conveying to you and asking those questions. It's okay to be clueless, like please be curious, ask those questions, get to the root of the answer and allow them to have the best experience possible, especially when you have the tools to do it. But they're telling you, just do it.
And it's so funny because what you just touched on is so true. Like we hear that no, and we just stop. We hear that no, and we don't ask any more questions. We don't do the share with me, what about these emails you don't like? Is it that there's too many, or is it the content? Like, let's make sure that we're curating this so it's what you want. And I think that that's so key, and something we're consistently coaching on. Like, don't just take the no, stay curious. Ask those what we call power questions. Share with me more about that, or what would need to happen in order for this to work for you. And then all of a sudden you're in relationship And this patient is like, wow, they actually want to know what I
Mm-hmm.
want. It's not just about what they want. Those are the patients that turn into lifelong patients because you're in relationship. It's not transactional.
Ah, I love that. You're in relationships. It's not transactional. That's so true. Because once they're loyal to you, once they
Mm-hmm.
feel committed to you, but you have to, just like any other relationship, pull your weight, and they'll appreciate those questions too. Like staying curious. And I
Oh,
always
yeah.
love Brene Brown always says, like, what is it? Stay brave or be brave, or and it's true.
Yeah.
You just gotta, because they'll appreciate that, and it's not attacking it. It's just getting to the root of whatever they want to resolve, so you can strengthen the relationship. I love that. It's a
Yes.
relationship.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. These are
Mm-hmm.
strong. So, as a coach as well, what are barriers that you see that hold people back from growing or hold the practices back from growing?
Okay, this is going to be an unpopular answer, so let's just go ahead and wade into the uncomfortableness of this.
Yes.
The doctor.
Oh, tell
The
me
doctor is
more.
one of the biggest barriers.
Okay.
Okay, so doctors, as you're listening, I do love you. And oftentimes our doctors feel really alone. So what do they do in that situation? They feel like they can't rely on anybody. So if you can't rely on somebody or you feel like no one has your back, what do you do in that situation? You take everything
Okay.
on. You do everything. You're the one doing the filling. You're the one making the confirmation call. You're the one collecting the payment. I hope that's not you if you're listening to this
Yeah.
podcast. And when they do that, they actually rob their team members of growth. And so then they create a whole nother cycle, which is a second barrier we have right now in dentistry, which is finding team or finding staff that helps your practice grow. So the doctor oftentimes can be that barrier because they don't have that trust and they don't know how to grow a team. And so on the reverse of that, they just decide they're going to do everything on their own. And initially they could be really successful doing that. I've seen some doctors that run really small practices, boutique, and they are just killing it. But I think oftentimes the doctor can be the biggest barrier there. So I mean that's also why we're so passionate about coaching, because as a coach, like, we have your back and we want what's best for you. And so that coaching is there to hold you accountable to get the result that you want.
And I feel, based on my experience working with you guys too, it creates like this open conversation. People have somebody to go to, but it's not their direct boss. Somebody that is kind of that middle ground, but they can discuss and talk about and really see their growth opportunities and understand that you're not just a hygienist or an assistant or office manager. Like, you play a vital role for the practice, each and every one of you. You're a small business, so having a smaller team, typically everybody has that. And that's why I love when you said the morning huddle, for everybody to bring something to the meeting. You feel responsible. Like, you feel like you're going over information and that you have a part of the practice, and it's not just Doc, but Doc has to trust you too in order to make sure that, and that is hard, that, oh my gosh, you have to make sure those conversations are happening to, oh, that's their baby, that's their business, but that's any other business and any other owner and CEO, so it's that trust factor. Wow, that was a brave thing to say. I'm proud of you.
I know. Thank you. I'm like, oh shoot, did I really just say that? But it's true. And these dentists, they're amazing at what they do, but they go to school for dentistry. And unless they had someone previously telling them, you should invest in like maybe some business classes or some leadership classes, because they truly are in running a small business. And dentistry is what is the starting point there, but they're also in HR and they're also in, like I said, they're in the business of running a business. And so all of these other things end up on their plate, and it's like they don't know who to turn to. So yeah, they a lot of these dentists are doing an amazing job, and they sometimes can be the biggest barrier.
I don't know how they do it. I honestly, just to your point, like, there's so many hats that they're wearing, and to and I feel like I talk about this a lot, but it's true. That's why it's so important to have your board of what I call your board of experts, your team by you that you can trust. So it's you need those third parties. So it's not only in your office, but it's your coach, it's your marketing, it's your CPA, your attorneys, your brokers, like whoever you need to make sure that you are fulfilling the goals of your business. You're being transparent with your team, but you have people to go to that are experts in their own fields to make you a legitimate business, so you can focus on being a clinician and a business owner and being your best self. Like, just it's your job. You want to make sure that as a person you are also being fulfilled and you're fulfilling the other people that are a part of your practice. And to take on all that weight, don't do it. Like, that's just not fun for anybody, and that's life's too short to have all that pressure. Yeah. Not to get philosophical or anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I know we just went really deep with that.
Hey.
But I would piggyback off of what you just said. I completely agree. And you also have to think that as this business owner, there are people who are constantly coming to them, and it can continually make them feel like nobody actually has their back, because people come to them and they're like, pay me to do this, pay me to do that. And so their board of experts needs to be a very trusted group in order for them to go back to their team and be their best self, and not only for the team but for the patient and be their best self.
Oh, so true. It's like a full cycle. Everybody's got to trust everybody and do their part, and everybody works differently together too. But yeah, 100%. You don't want to be keeping things accountable or worrying about things. You want to make sure that you value that person and they are just like you would hire them on full time. You're hiring them on as your board. That's it's just not legally stated, but yeah, it's who you trust and agree with. I love that. But you're also part of the Hygiene Mastery team. We've kind of touched on that a little bit. From a hygiene standpoint, what do you think is often overlooked? Do you think that's also comes in with the doctor at play? Do you think there's like processes or patients or other what do you think is overlooked as a hygienist?
So I do still think the doctor is a part of this equation here, but I think it's more the relationship between the doctor and the hygienist. And one of Hygiene Mastery's core beliefs is that the patient benefits the most when the doctor and the hygienist are in a co-discovery relationship. Thought of another way, it's a co-diagnosis relationship. Now, I'm going to be clear, hygiene, we know we cannot diagnose. And diagnosis has two parts. So the first part of that diagnosis is finding it. And when your doctor comes in and has to do a 10-minute exam on every hygiene patient because you as the hygienist aren't saying anything, that patient is missing out. Ultimately, what we're doing in that scenario is we're letting our standard of care drop and we're not giving that patient our best. And so here, I think one of the very key core pieces is that relationship between the hygienist and the doctor. Making sure that they are calibrated in what they're looking at, and then also making sure that they have a great system for assessing this patient so that the patient gets exactly what they need. And like we were talking about earlier, the patient gets exactly what they want.
Yes.
Which as a hygienist, that is key. I need to be finding out what are my patient's rules, what are my patient's values. Because if I know that, then going back to what we talked about earlier, I'm treating them the way they want to be treated.
Yes.
It's not how I want to treat them. It's how they want to be treated. Now, I have my own agenda in that. I know what they need in order to be healthy. However, I'm aligning it with what they want. So one of the things that I actually coach hygiene teams on is, when a patient needs scaling and root planing and maybe they're resistant to it, and every hygienist, I'm about to reference this meme, every hygienist under the sun has seen this meme where it's like, the little cartoon and the patient comes in and the hygienist is like, hey, you need scaling and root planing. And the patient is like, can I just whiten my teeth? They totally missed it. Like, they don't understand the disease they're having. One of the things that I'll coach teams on is, align that. Tell them that as you move forward with your scaling and root planing, like, we will give you whitening trays for free. Like, let's make this a win-win. We know you need this treatment. We know you want the whitening. How can we make this work for both of us? So, don't let it be a barrier, but that starts with like that co-diagnosis relationship, because when my doctor comes in, I'm going to talk to my doctor about, yes, I diagnosed Julia. She has periodontal disease. She needs this treatment. and she's really interested in whitening. So I thought we could do this for her. Your doctors are going to be like, oh my gosh, yes, great idea. Let's move forward.
Yes.
So I think that relationship is something that's often missed. And I know that because I'm also in hygiene Facebook groups, and you hear over and over again how these hygienists don't feel supported by their doctors. And because I coach doctors, I hear over and over again from doctors that they don't feel like their hygienist is supporting what they want. So that relationship is key. Working on that relationship in the office is so, so crucial.
Oh, there we go.
Say that one more time for me.
Yeah. That relationship is key from there.
Yes, that relationship is so crucial because that's how the hygiene department's really going to grow, because they feel so supported by their doctor. And that's how the practice is going to grow, because the doctor sees the hygienist talking to the patient about the menu of services that they offer. So that relationship is key to growth. And it's also just crucial, I think, for happy relationships within the office, truthfully.
Yeah. How do you, because that can be tricky, right? Like it could be conversations, it could be processes. Like, do you think it's something that can be systemized throughout the practice, or does it have to be like from the doctor and each hygienist relationship? Like, what do you recommend to get to that level as smooth and seamless as possible? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things that we coach on in Hygiene Mastery is a 7-step assessment process, so that every doctor and every hygienist are doing the same assessment process on a patient, and then doing a handoff. So if I've taken the time to get all that information from my patient, when my doctor walks in, they normally have some pleasantries, and then they look to me and they say, Julia, tell me what's going on with Susie today. And that's my opportunity to then say, here are all the things that we've done so far in the appointment and that Susie and I have discussed. And then I'm handing off to you to give me that final confirmation. Like, yes, great catch on number 30. This amalgam does need to be replaced. And I've probably said to Susie, sometimes doctor can save it with another filling. Sometimes doctor needs to place a crown. They'll be the one to let you know which way they want to go with this. But Susie now has an awareness of what's going on. So that's something that we work with teams a lot on, that calibration, the 7-step assessment, and then that handoff.
Handoffs are so key. It is your clear. And would you say that you do that in front of the patient, or do you think that, or does it depend on the practice as far as like making sure the right handoff is right for every practice?
So we do advocate that they do it in front of the patient. I think there are some instances, and we've had specific instances happen with teams where it might need to be discussed outside of the room if it's something really delicate going on. We also know that people, not just patients in general, need to hear things multiple times from multiple people in order to fully process it. So if I've talked to Susie about it, Susie may just need to hear that doctor agrees with me. And so now Susie's ready to move forward. Or Susie may not have understood everything that I was saying. And now that doctor's in the room, doctor has the opportunity to bridge that communication gap even more. So most of the time we advocate that handoff does happen in front of the patient in the hygiene room.
Makes total sense. And I even think of education as a whole. Like when you're talking about, you want them to make sure that they know, understand everything that's going on with their health and what's going on in their mouth, and being able to say at different times. It's so crucial, because I think it's like some people say 7, some people say 9 touches in order for it to actually sink in, for them to register what is going on. And I'm sure that's a common thing to be like, I just told you, like, didn't I? But it's saying it, different people saying it. And that also builds the trust and like validation. And we always say too, having follow-up emails to really hone that in if they didn't accept it at that time, making sure you're educating them outside of the office to help build that relationship and that create that allureness, like, ooh, that is cool. I did want to move forward with that. Or to your point, if they want whitening, tying that in. I love that tip. That's such a brilliant tip, to hear what they want to do and then actually tie it into, this is your goal, this is my goal. Let's loop them in. Let's like make everybody happy right now, because we know we're here for your health and we don't want you mad down the road. But at the same time, if we can have that win, a quick win, and get to your goals.
Yeah,
it's crucial.
Absolutely. Yes.
Listening.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people want, we have short attention spans. We want action items. Now we want to be able to just be able to implement things and not think about it or say, okay, that's all long term. Or we can put some, and a lot of this we can start morning huddles today. We can start these conversations. We can discuss handoffs, right? But what are tips that you would say today they need to start doing or could do to really change the way they run their practice?
So many. Like I could think of so many. And if you bombard
how much time do we have?
What are we doing the rest of the day? But if we bombard somebody with like, you could do this and you could do that, and I'm giving you everything under the sun, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get like, I call it perfection paralysis, but maybe that's not the right word, but you get stuck. You have too many options. And one of the things that we like to say is, how do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So I would say if, you listen to this and morning huddle is what's resonating with you, start a morning huddle. No more than 10 minutes. And based off of what you and I have discussed, like pick 4 things that you want every department to bring to that. And then they just present on it. I guarantee, and the reason I guarantee it is because I hear it over and over again. When you implement a huddle, it will be life-changing, as long as you're not reading the news. But it will be life-changing.
It's so good.
So that's one thing I would absolutely say, if you're not doing that now, implement it as soon as possible. I think the other thing I would say is also figure out when you can do team meetings. We consistently hear, I don't have time for anything. You have to find a way to carve out time. You absolutely do. So whether that's 2 team meetings a month, 4 team meetings a month, 1 team meeting a month, creating that space in order to talk about things that aren't working in the office. I think either of those 2 tips, honestly, will change your practice. On the other side of that, you do need to know that you will find a lot of other projects and things that you want to start when you start carving out time for these things, which isn't a bad thing because now all of a sudden you have the time to work on it.
Right. And, like you just said, one bite at a time, right? So you can have your ongoing list of like your dream, we want this, we want that. And heck, those meetings are meant to move towards that goal and say, okay, we're going to take this next, or this is priority, or this isn't. It's literally, and I wouldn't say that even in dental, it's a business, right? Like that's how any business should be doing. Have your morning huddles, they should be constructive. And then you also have meetings where you're discussing this and you're really showing what advancements you're bringing to the company and vice versa, or things that you've learned. It's just got to have purpose. And I always say like an agenda is crucial, letting people know if they need to bring anything. And that's why I love when you say morning huddle, at least everybody knows what they're bringing every single time. Make sure you're saying the expectations and not just assuming that everybody's on the same page as you, because they might have a completely different idea.
Oh, yes.
And that's when meetings go rogue. It goes from 10 to an hour and you're like, what just happened? No wonder you hate meetings because all we did was talk and bring more problems to the table. And now we're all just terrified and instead of like resolving issues, and having progress boards. Or I've been in a dental office before too, and they literally have like their back room and their break room. They have a thermometer of like what they're doing for production that they're filling in together. And then they have like their list of ongoing tasks that they want to achieve, but it's in order. So everybody knows like, this is what our next task is if we want to work in the practice, or like take a Friday when we don't have appointments and like, this is what we want to focus on, or once a month, whatever that may be. So, clear as kind, go make sure you're communicating those goals and you're saying it and you're all a part of it. I think is so. Yes. Meeting power. Yes. This.
Actually, one thing that you did touch on. So one more tip I think is find a way to track whatever it is you want to track. So you mentioned like a progress board in the back. That progress board could be the projects that do come out of your team meetings. It could be, this is where production is, this is where collections is, but some way to track, one, so that you know whether or not you're hitting that goal. If you're hitting that goal, we want to celebrate you all day long. Who doesn't love hearing like, hey, great job hitting your goal, or I loved what you did with that patient, or we want to celebrate your success. Like, heck yeah, sign me up for that office. I will play full out all day long.
Yes.
And alternatively, like if it's not working, let's not wait until the end of the month. Let's not wait 6 months if it's not working. Nobody wants to stay in that environment.
Love
so
that.
I think the other thing, a quick tip would be figure out what you want to track and a way to track it. And that could be cloud-based, or that could be as simple as pen and paper.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Because if everybody knows the direction that you're going to, then yeah, to your very point, that's when you can celebrate. It's so much easier. But the biggest point you just said that I don't hear enough is if it's not working, stop. Like, why prolong the uncomfortable? And if it's not working, it's not worth it. Yes. Brilliant. And there's tools out there too, like Addit, Dental Intel, that you can digitally collect all this data and you can visually see everything from your management software, which is really key. I know Dental Intel also and Addit, they both have morning huddles that can kind of guide you through what you want to see too. But to your point, it's so nice to make sure that you're bringing that to the table and you're discussing it and you're seeing it. And even like we do shout outs here, just shouting somebody out goes such a long way. Like in those meetings, it's like, hey, I want to take the time to shout out Julia right now because she's the best guest that you could possibly have on a podcast. And I just love her so much. Oh my gosh, did you just feel good? Yeah. And it's true. I'm not just saying that. Yeah. So, I mean, just even taking that time to look somebody in the eye and like praise them is so rewarding. And you don't have that unless you guys all have a goal in mind and a track to go towards to make sure everyone's fulfilled.
Yeah.
This is always my favorite question.
Oh, okay.
And so, yes, it's what is your favorite success story that coaching has led to practice growth? It's always my favorite.
Awesome. So I'm saying all these things that I'm like, this might be an unpopular opinion. So actually my favorite success story right now is a team that I have that implemented assisted hygiene. They've been doing it now for about a year and a half, and assisted hygiene gets a really bad rap in dentistry because it's been done so poorly. And most people think that it's double booked. So they think that they're going in and it's like, Julia has a patient at 8 and Julia has another patient at 8. She's expected to be in 2 places at once. Or they think of it as like accelerated, where we're shortening appointments and putting more on a schedule, which that is not what Hygiene Mastery advocates for assisted hygiene. We have an amazing system to implement this and get success and do it the right way. And I have had 3 teams implement this. So one of my favorite success stories, like I said, is my team in Wyoming. They implemented assisted hygiene about a year and a half ago, and they did it because they're in an area that doesn't have a lot of access to care. And they have an amazing practice. It is absolutely beautiful. It is a big facility, but they don't always have enough providers. And so their hygienist said, hey, we recognize what's going on here. We need a solution. And so that's how we started our coaching relationship. We brought in assisted hygiene, and these hygienists don't want to go back to a single column. They love doing assisted hygiene. They love their assistants. They love that they can see more patients. They love that it's really efficient, and they are just doing an absolutely amazing job at it. They took it on and they said, we're going to lead with this. And they have continually trained other people on their team. And so I am just really proud of how they approach that, where a lot of times when we talk about assisted hygiene, hygienists are just like, there's no way I'm going to do that. And these hygienists said, there's no way we're not going to do this because we need to take care of these patients. And I even get chills when I talk about them because I'm so proud of them. And like I said, I've had a couple other teams implement it as well and do it really successfully. And I just hear this feedback of how much they enjoy it. And I love working with hygienists like that and teams like that, because they understand that we're truly in the business of taking care of people. And that's how committed they are to doing it. It's like, let's figure out a way. How do we do this? So that's one of my favorite success stories.
I could tell. I could like feel your passion come out of it. I just love it. That's amazing. That is incredible to not only give back to the community, be able to provide for more people, and then also just be more efficient with the time, and that they want to teach to others, and they won't even go back. That's incredible. That's an impact that just keeps on it's a ripple effect, it just keeps
absolutely
on giving. So, oh, I love that. Well, Julia, thank you so much for talking with me today. I've had so much fun. And
me too.
you're just
thank you.
Amazing. So thank you. And thank all of you for tuning in. If you are in the West Coast or California area and you want to learn more about bringing your practice to the next level, give Julia a call at 925-586-8045, or you can send her an email at julia@hygienemastery.com. You can also check out their upcoming public events and all the services that are offered to support hygiene teams at hygienemastery.com. And for any other hygiene inquiries, go to hmadmin@hygienemastery.com. Thanks again, Julia. You're the best.
Thanks, Abby.